It's been around 19 years since Ling became a living, breathing prop. Valued member of the Bouvier family on The Simpsons. I use the word prop because ever since the show introduced Ling, she hasn't been really given much attention. In fact, the last time that Ling was shown on screen was in the season 28 episode Fatzcarraldo, which aired just over 7 years ago. This begs the question, what happened to Ling Bouvier, and why was she even brought into the show in the first place? It's always important to have a reason when you're introducing a new character on a TV show, and Ling certainly seemed to have one. Her storyline involved one of the deepest, saddest, and most well-thought-out characters on the show, Selma Bouvier. It's funny, as a kid, I wasn't a big fan of the Bouvier sisters, but then I rewatched the show now, I absolutely love them. Selma and Ling's storylines seem to intertwine perfectly, and many fans believed that it was going to open up a bunch of plot opportunities for The Simpsons. But instead, Ling was basically used as a prop being held by Selma as if she was one of her cigarettes, and even then, she was hardly even seen or acknowledged. Ling was such a minor character in the show that a lot of the time, I forgot she even existed. Let's put it this way, Jub Jub, Selma's pet iguana, had more airtime and plot points than Ling had, and that's just crazy. So why even make the kid a part of The Simpsons in the first place? Well, long story short, it's because Selma wanted to be a mother, and that seemed to be a trait that was taking over her character for nearly a decade on one of TV's longest-running shows. Selma Bouvier was brought into the series as part of the snarky duo that consisted of herself and her sister Patty. Early on in the show, though, Selma managed to find her stride on her own as a character, which slowly revealed that throughout her life she had one major dream: to be a mother. This was an odd revelation from the chain-smoking queen of sassy comebacks, but it was a beautiful TV moment nonetheless. That being said, going with the true nature of The Simpsons, Selma's journey for a child didn't come without hardships and laughable mishaps. In the episode, Selma's Choice, Selma was encouraged by a hilarious commercial of an elderly woman yelling at her and saying that her time to have a child was running out. She had to do it now. I don't know if that's what Selma wanted to hear, but it got her thinking about her biological clock. But it turns out, dating in Springfield was harder than it looked, and every suitor that Selma met just let her down. She even tried dating Mole Man, but called it off after she pictured having weird mole babies. Honestly, all of her dates in that episode simply led me laughing at how horrible it would be for anyone to date any guy from The Simpsons. Selma's yearning to become a mother continued though, and after Lisa suggested that she tried artificial insemination, Selma decided to take the kids out to the amusement park. It's there that she learned the truth about children. They are little demons who are sent to bring chaos to everything, and they run on sugar and sugar alone. After watching firsthand as Bart almost died on a roller coaster and Lisa went insane and became the Lizard Queen, Selma began rethinking her stance on children. Only for her, she felt as though she wasn't strong-willed enough to become a mother, which actually led to a nice heart-to-heart with Homer, of all people. This is when Selma realized the one thing that's better than having children, which is owning an iguana. Who needs those kids when you have a lizard, right? Selma adopted Jub Jub, the iguana, after her old friend Gladys passed away. And since then, would you believe that Jub Jub has had more screen time than Ling has had during her entire time on the show? A few seasons down the line, Selma continued her search for a man to start a family with, but Springfield hadn't changed much over the years, and she still wasn't having any luck. She almost found one suitable person to have a child with, Troy McClure, but he turned out to be a total tool bag. Troy was just using Selma for a publicity stunt and to make his career relevant again. That led Selma to call things off and once again continue her search. It wouldn't be until the episode Goo Goo Gai Pan during season 16 that Selma's search would finally come to a semi-happy ending. As she started going through menopause, Selma came to the conclusion that she didn't need a man to have a child, and instead began to focus on adoption. But Selma sadly learned that even though there are a ton of children hoping to be adopted in China, single women were unable to adopt them. And this is where Homer comes in. Once again, Homer was unexpectedly helpful. Homer pretended to be Selma's husband, and the pair committed pure fraud as they tricked the adoption agency and finally brought Selma and baby Ling together. There were a few hiccups with the adoption process, including the woman from the adoption agency driving a tank and using it to threaten Selma and get the baby back. However, Selma gave a passionate speech. Ultimately, Selma proved herself to be a solid parent, so she was able to keep the baby. Now, you would think that after putting Selma through so much before getting Ling, the baby would become a relatively big character, right? Sadly, you'd be wrong, because for some reason, it was almost like Ling didn't even exist in The Simpsons for a while. In fact, the kid wasn't seen for an entire season, and even then, she seemed more like a prop than an actual baby. In the episode Kiss Kiss Bang Bangalore, Ling was shown sleeping in Selma's arms, but the characters didn't mention or interact with her at all. That was the first time that fans got to see Ling after Selma had adopted her, and oddly enough, it was the only time Ling was shown that entire season. The next time we saw her was in the episode The Wife Aquatic. When Selma was attending an outdoor movie event, Ling was shown sitting in Selma's arms, and even though the baby was awake this time, nobody seemed to acknowledge Ling's existence. Eventually though, Ling was given a slightly bigger role, but even then, the episode still wasn't about her. The episode was Rome Old and Julie involving Grandpa Simpson being put in charge of watching Maggie while the family went out. Meanwhile, the Simpsons also hired Selma to watch over Grandpa while they were gone, which led to a mini playdate between Maggie and Ling. But even then, the most that Ling really did was play around Maggie on the floor. The main focal point of the episode was Selma and her strange, budding relationship with Homer's father. Thankfully, that fizzled out quickly, and Selma went back to being a single mother. Now, remember, by this point in the real world, 2 years had passed since Ling was introduced on the show. And not only had she not been a major part of any episode, but her adoptive mother had never even been shown talking to her. But wasn't Ling supposed to be important to Selma's storyline? There were a few instances in the series where Ling had a stronger presence than she usually did, but even then, it only highlighted Selma's odd parenting tactics and that Ling's age was vague. For someone who wanted to be a parent so badly and for so long, it seems weird that Selma hardly spoke to her kid. But that definitely didn't stop her from speaking her mind. In the season 21 episode, Pranks and Greens, Selma and Ling joined Marge and some of the other moms at a midday mommy's club. When snack time rolled around though, everyone freaked out because Marge brought out a tray of cookies. Selma joined in and judged Marge for giving her daughter sugary junk food at snack time instead of something healthier. And then again, for letting the children drink out of a number 7 sippy cup. For this to be one of the only times that Selma acted as if she cared about her baby, rather than just holding her like a prop, it seems pretty strange. But hey, at least she stood for what she believed in, I guess. Throughout her next couple of appearances, Ling went back to being a good little plant for Selma, just sitting there as they showed the Bouvier twins doing lots of different activities, like eating in the food court and standing in the background at church. Now, Ling also appeared to have a hard time when it came to aging. You see, Ling didn't have any continuity around how old she was supposed to be, and therefore would sometimes appear older in some episodes, and then younger again in others. That's really weird when you think about it. Maggie stayed the same age throughout the entire show, yet even though Ling was the same age as Maggie in the season 24 episode, The Changing of the Guardian, she appeared to be at least a year older. Throughout the episode, we see all of the hobbies that the Bouvier twins were forcing Ling to do all at the same time. Once again, this brings into question Selma's parenting tactics because clearly, Ling was not happy with that situation. Interestingly enough, the next time we see Ling, she had actually gotten younger again and was back to being a prop. Only this time, she was a prop playing a violin. That brings us to our next question. Where was Ling in the more recent seasons of The Simpsons? Honestly, no one knows, because she hasn't made an appearance in the show for more than 7 years, which is absolutely crazy. The last time that fans saw Ling was back in season 27 in the episode Puffless, and the main focus of that episode was that Selma and Patty were going to quit smoking cigarettes. This would have been an amazing character development for them, but it was easier said than done. Much like the rest of her time on The Simpsons, Ling was a silent background character in this episode. It's weird because they could have used Ling to push the point that Selma should quit smoking and get healthier, but they decided to keep the focus off of Ling. It honestly makes me wonder, why would they even create the character in the first place? Especially since after that episode, Ling was never seen again. She hasn't been shown or referenced at all during the show in recent years, unlike Jub Jub the Iguana, who appeared in the Disney Plus Simpsons special Te Deseo Lo Mejor. That's right, Jub Jub is still around, but Ling appears to be gone for good. I'm curious to hear what you think though. Will we ever see Ling again in The Simpsons, or is she gone forever? Be sure to let me know in the comments below.